Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Adventure Time, Season 7, Episodes 6 through 13, Stakes. So, I think this is the first of the mini-series. I know there's a few of these in this series that happen in the later seasons. And if I'm not forgetting anything from Season 6, I think this is the first one. Um, so I don't know anything about this. I don't know really anything about any of these miniseries. The title, Stakes, can mean one of two things, I feel, based on the way it's spelled. Either it's talking about high stakes, like things are gonna be really intense, really important. And I think things are gonna be important either way. But the second option is going to be like stakes like the object, like usually made of wood, but not always. Um, and most often associated with vampire lore. In other words, probably related to Marceline. Um, and I think that's the more likely of the two options. Because having high stakes is something that you could say for a lot of this series. There's a lot of portions of this series that contain high stakes, a lot of storylines and everything. I think that's too simple. I don't think they'd make a mini series and title it based off of something like that. However, a mini series about Marceline, who is without question one of the most popular characters in this entire damn series, makes perfect sense. It's logical, it's smart. Um, at this point in the show, giving a mini series of episodes specifically centered around her, it would do huge. It would be a big deal. And I feel like there's a lot that we could still explore with her character. Um, a lot regarding her past with Simon, a lot regarding even hell before she met Simon. There's a lot that could just be gone into, a lot that we still don't know about her, a lot that we want to know about her. And this is the kind of series that would delve into that. Not only because Adventure Time typically has so many damn episodes, but it actually does develop its cast pretty well. We get to know them, and they never feel like they're underutilized. Um, Usually, the only characters that ever feel like that are random side characters or just random, like, minor background level characters here and there, episodic ones that aren't meant to be really delved into. And hell, even some of those do actually get delved into a little bit, weirdly enough. This series does that sometimes. Um, so doing a mini series on and developing Marceline even further. Again, with her popularity, with how big of a character she is, it just makes sense. Uh, I don't know, like when this series of episodes came out, so I don't know like how big the popularity around the show and around her character was at this time. But if the very first like mini series they're doing is centered around her, then I feel like it was probably still really big when this series came out. Um, so we're gonna have like 8 episodes then, all of which following a single plot line or a couple plot lines maybe, centered around more than likely Marceline, but obviously more than likely featuring other characters too. And one that's probably gonna give a lot more depth to her character and the events that she's gone through and stuff like that. Excuse me. Maybe even develop her father a little more. That would be interesting. I'm trying to remember his name. Abed? No, no, that's the last name. It's Marceline Abadir. Yeah. What was his first name? I can't remember. But I'm wondering if it might develop him a lot more too. Either way, like we've already seen Marcy in this season, helping out Bubblegum take on the varmints, which left off on a really sweet visual of Bonnie leaning against Marcy while they just rest and relax on the porch and everything. Um, but I'm very excited to see what we get here. Just more development, more Marceline stuff is always great. She is one of my favorite characters, which no surprise. Her and Bubblegum are my two favorite characters. It's not even a question. um, yeah, I'm excited for this. I'm very genuinely excited. So let's just get into this and see what these episodes have in store. I did check on how much the time should be. It should be about an hour and a half of recording because, 11-minute episodes each, approximate. So, this should be altogether doable. But let's check it out. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode, or episodes, to the mini-series. That being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, I acknowledge that it could be my bias speaking, because as I had mentioned, Marceline and Princess Bubblegum are my favorite characters. So it may be my bias speaking, but I honestly truly believe, at least based on this six full seasons and 13 episodes so far, this is the best Adventure Time has ever been. Like, and it's not even close. Like, there's a lot of, like, in the first 6 seasons, a lot of really good episodes. A lot of episodes and stories that just work. A lot of the stuff with the Lich, for example, was amazing. But even all of that stuff was put to shame here. The storytelling, the lore, the character work, the stakes that were in place here, it all felt like a whole different level. Like, this was the first mini-series that they did, and there are others I do know of. But this felt like special. Like, if we were to consider this like a 10 out of 10 with these 8 episodes, and seeing that as the peak of Adventure Time, the next best thing I would say would be a 6. Like, that's how distant it is from everything else in terms of quality, in my opinion. And again, that's nothing against the other stuff. That's nothing against anything that's come before necessarily. it's purely on the merit of this miniseries, this 8-parter was apparently a 4-day event. It said they're like the little pop-ups on the screen and everything from when this aired. It was like a 4-day event, so 2 episodes each day. Like, they made this a big deal, clearly. I mean, an 8-episode miniseries in the first place, an 8-episode like special, is a big deal as it is. But like they made a big 4-day event out of it. I mean, this came out 8 years ago. This came out in 2015, almost a decade ago. I don't know. I don't know um, how this was advertised, but based on that kind of stuff, I'm imagining like this was probably really well built up. Like, I can imagine this being advertised as a really big fucking deal. Like, does anyone who watched Milo Pony Friendship is Magic remember how the royal wedding, the Canterlot wedding, was, how that was advertised? It was made like this big deal of ahead of time. The network would be like releasing all these big promos for it and making it like this huge event. That's what I kind of imagine this was probably uh, showcased as on Cartoon Network. They probably made a really big deal out of this. And honestly, it deserves it. Like, again, the depth and character work in here alone is the best that Adventure Time's ever had. Like, if I'm being honest, I kind of always have gone back and forth on who between Marcy and Bubblegum is my favorite. Um, I've gone back and forth and changed it time and time again, depending on different episodes. This, I think, pretty heavily solidifies Marceline as my favorite. Like, unless Bubblegum gets some big shit happening in the future, it's like, this pretty heavily solidifies it, at least for the time being. And the best part about it is, it wasn't this standalone thing. I was kind of going into this a little worried that it was going to be completely standalone and that it wasn't going to like feel like it fit in with what was going on recently, but no, it very much did. It even ended with the King of Ooh being usurped. And Crunchy now needs to be usurped as well, but the point is the King of Ooh is no longer in power and barely has a physical form left. All of the Candy Kingdom had turned against him. It's just like Princess Bubblegum will be getting the kingdom back, which we expected, but the fact is this was featured in it. And yeah, it wasn't the main focus of this mini series at all. It wasn't the focus. It wasn't like it was kind of shown like almost like a minor thing. But at the same time, it was focused on. It was made a point of. And it felt naturally integrated because, again, the King of Ooh had been shown prior to this in a couple of these other episodes. So it didn't just come out of nowhere or anything. And honestly, I also like the fact that the King of Oo's defeat wasn't this big, grand thing. Because honestly, he didn't fucking deserve that. He wouldn't deserve this grandiose defeat. No. So I'm kind of glad that it was handled this way. It works better. We have the other vampire leaders here, who all of which, except the Vampire King, are named after tarot cards. I didn't mention that in the reaction, but I did notice. The big one that actually gave it away was the Hierophant, which is. I know the Hierophant is a tarot card mostly because of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and Hierophant Green, Kakyoin's stand in part 3. Um, I'm not big into like tarot cards and everything, but I know of them because of JoJo and stuff. And yeah, the others like the Empress and the Moon, the Fool, those are all tarot cards too. So it's like that's a really interesting choice that they made there to have the vampires named after those. I guess let's talk about them. The Fool was the least interesting of all of them. He was just a fool. He was ridiculous and silly and not that big of a deal. The easiest to take out by far. Just kind of a waste of time, if we're being honest. Um, after the Fool, we had to take on the Empress, who was trying to take over Simon using mind control and get him to, fetch her humans to feed off of. Unfortunately, her mind control didn't really work. The Empress was actually, I think, my favorite of all of the vampire lords. Um, I just really liked her design, especially using like the snake around her neck to lift up her hood instead of like her hands. It's like that's so needlessly extra, but I kind of love it. Also, her eyes are honestly very fucking pretty. Like I have a thing about eyes. Anyone who's watched this channel for enough time knows that. And it's not only with eye horror, because obviously eye horror freaks me the hell out. Like eyes being like stabbed or whatnot, like or ripped out. It's like, ugh. But it's not just that. It's like eyes. It's not. It's freaky to see eye horror because eyes are the window to the soul. They're one of the most identifying factors in a person or even a character. And in a lot of ways, they feel extremely important because of that. They feel like they're giving us the best look into a character, even when they're like minimalistic, like a lot of the eyes in this show tend to be. But instead, you have the Empress here, whose eyes are excessively detailed and needlessly gorgeous. Like, they are so fucking pretty. And it's like, why? Most of these characters have just singular black dots for eyes, and then you have this lady whose eyes are like sucking me in, like pools of like beauty. I don't know how else to word it. I'm bad at wording shit. Um, Her eyes were just so needlessly pretty. Um, After her though, you had the Hierophant, who was old school, classic vampire, and very proud of that fact. He hated the new ways. He hated new styles of being a vampire, new forms. He played by the old rules, such as not being allowed to be invited into a house, or not being able to enter a house unless invited, which was, in the end, his downfall. His old school ways basically caused him to self explode. I don't think like he exploded and everything because he entered the house. I think it was an active thing that he did subconsciously to himself. Um, because it's very much made a point of that him adhering by the old school ways is a choice that he has chosen to make, and that he could just go against it at any time. But instead, he's like knocked into the house by Crunchy accidentally and then just blows up, even though there's no reason he should. So I I have to assume like there was some subconscious thing in his mind because of how obsessed he was with the old ways that caused him to basically commit suicide. Um, that's how it reads to me, which is insanely dark, but also like Jesus. It's like, what? That's a thing you did. Then we had the Moon, who I really like because of the surprise with the voice. I really like that gimmick, that idea. When you have a character who looks one way and has a voice that sounds completely different, that always cracks me up. So seeing her look like kind of almost cutesy, except having the weird vulva flappy thing on her head, it's like just like that is very dirty looking. I don't like that. I don't like how it flaps in the wind. It's uncomfy. Um, it, it looks like a vagina, and I'm not okay with this. Um, but yeah, and then her voice being horrifying. It's like I do like that though. I really like that. Um, she was the most mysterious and interesting to take down. Um, Not really much to say about her character other than that, though. I feel like she didn't have as much character as the others did. Um, and that's not necessarily against her. It's just she didn't really have much. The Vampire King was interesting, though. He apparently had grown apathetic towards his vampirism and wanted it to go away. And in fact, he was very much against going back to the old ways as Hierophant wanted. And we find out that he just, especially after, I guess, experiencing the world after these hundreds of years, he's just grown apathetic towards it and actually ends up getting their help to take his vampirism away, which I had actually thought at first was a trap. I thought he was like tricking them for some reason, that he was gonna like betray them, but no, it was actually genuine, which was interesting. And we find out that apparently he was just a lion. All right, interesting. I wonder how the lion became a vampire. A lot of questions there, I guess. But yeah, his essence ends up getting released and is kind of the final enemy they have to take out, the Black Cloud. There's a lot of other great stuff in this, such as seeing Marceline's mom, her more of her backstory with Simon, and specifically the moment where he left her behind. Just a lot of stuff like this. Even just her backstory of taking out the vampires the first time and seeing her like different hairstyles and different things she's been through. Also, her dream about like growing old, living with Bonnie is so fucking cute. It is so fucking cute. And I'm not just saying that because of the obvious ship and everything, which is more than just a ship, let's be honest. It's very canon. This show has not hidden that very well at all. It's like it's tried to be a little subtle because at the time this wasn't as accepted, but it wasn't hiding shit. They made it very obvious, and I'm actually surprised they got away with it because it's pretty fucking blatant. The two blush at each other constantly. But yeah, seeing that it's not just cute because of the ship though. It's just cute as a concept. The idea of an immortal being dreaming of being able to grow old with the one that they love. Um, it's just a really fucking great concept. And it doesn't even necessarily need to be an immortal being dreaming of growing old with the one they love like that. It can be something similar to, like in She-Ra and the Princess of Power, when Adora has the dream about like being older with Catra, Glimmer, and Bo, and them just having a happy life together as a couple of couples. It's like yeah, it's a precious concept that is really nice to see. Um, these glimpses at a possible future of people just living together happily as friends, as lovers, both. It's just something that I really really love, partially because I'm really into schmaltzy shit, and that's pretty schmaltzy. um, but it's also just like, especially in a show where there's a lot of like crazy shit happening, it's nice to see like them dreaming of a sense of normalcy and just happiness, just a happy, pure life together. That's just really nice. Again, especially in shows with a bunch of this craziness happening around them. So I really like that. There are a couple characters I did not expect to see in here, like Lumpy Space Princess. It's like, hi. And then it's like she's genuinely trying to help and everything, throwing all the stakes, but it's like, okay, the first stake was genuinely good help. Everything after that sort of messed it up a little bit, girl. It's like, listen, LSP, not my favorite character, but she has her moments. But this was not it. um, yeah, it's just there's a lot of fun stuff here. And quite a bit of setup for the future too. Like the fact that Marceline still seems to have the Vampire King's presence in her mind. That's definitely going to come back into play at some point. Um, there's obviously a line of setup between her and the Ice King, Simon, um, talking about like how one day she might help him, she might be able to help him. And it's like, it obviously brings up the idea of like her possibly helping at some point heal him, which is something I very much want to see and I really hope happens. Um, and whether or not that does or not, I don't know. That's actually one thing I have not been spoiled on. The fate of the Ice King by the end of the series, I don't know what happens to him. And I am very happy that that is something I'm not spoiled on. Because I've obviously been spoiled on a few things because of how big this series is and people talk about it, but there are some things that I just don't know, and that's one of them. And obviously, do not tell me. Do not even hint at telling me. Like, that would piss me off, honestly. I don't want to know. I try to go into this as blind as possible as it is. I can't do that completely, but I'm so happy I didn't know what this mini series was about. I didn't even know for sure it was about Marceline. I just like felt it most likely was because of the name. I don't know what any of the other miniseries in this are about. I know there's one called Islands. I have no freaking clue what that's about. But the point I was going with is I really want to see Marceline end up healing him, and she has to at least help with that because it's important for her and his characters. Plus, honestly, Ice King is one of the most tragic characters, honestly, in animation, period. He deserves a happy ending. He deserves to gain his sanity back, even if maybe not completely, maybe not 100%, but he deserves to have a happy ending. And I really hope he gets it. Um, but yeah, I also love the new opening with Olivia Olson singing and everything. Um, it was really well done. The changes felt right, and it was awesome, honestly. There's been a couple of variations of the opening at this point, like the Fiona and Cake one, for example, but this one is by far my favorite. And that includes comparing to the original version too. Um, so yeah, I'm really happy I decided to watch all of these together. Because it's like there were, I think every single episode here had a cliffhanger, except the last one, of course. Um, it's like I would have been beside myself if I had to like wait on any of this. So doing it all together, reacting to it all together was the best decision. Plus, again, it was only about an hour and a half for 8 episodes. That's nothing. Because these episodes are half length, you can watch a bunch of them at once and be completely fine. Now, I do know the next 2 episodes are a two-parter. But other than that, I don't know, like, at the moment, what else is. I don't know if there's any other two-parters in the season, probably only in the finale. But we are going to we are going to do multiple episodes next time as well, and I think we're just going to continue doing that. Now, the amount of episodes probably won't be any level of consistent. It's just going to depend on how much I want to do at the time, like in terms of how much I'm in the mood for and everything, and if I want to record anything else on the same day, stuff like that. So we'll see. I'm probably not going to do any more this week, so we'll probably wait till next week to get to more. But tell me in the comments below, what did you think of these 8 episodes, the Stakes mini-series of Adventure Time? Let me know, and thank you so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See you all next time.